Well, from the battlefield to the balance sheet, defense contractor Electro Optic Systems has been on a mission to rebuild market confidence. Well, Bell Direct's Grady, Wulff and CEO Andre Schwartz break down this very hot comeback story.
Electro Optic Systems is the world market leader in remote weapon systems for anti-drone warfare for many years. We have been baselined by most of the NATO countries. So that was the situation up to very recently. And nowadays we add to this kind of leading position our laser weapon product line. We have been the company being first contracted worldwide with a 100 kilowatt laser weapon contract. So we are now at the forefront of this innovative, highly futuristic and strategic product line.
Grady, Bell Potter highlights global rearmament. And in its most recent report, the EU's proposed drone wall as a structural tailwind. So just talk us through the base case of the investment thesis at Bell's.
We see there's really strong potential upside for EOS. We see that the contracts they're winning are of hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not 5 million here, 10 million there. They're really strong material contracts and they last many years. So what we like about the company is that it is the leader in its space. It's got directed energy, remote weapon systems, high energy laser weapon systems. So the way that they take down the drones, they literally burn them down. So with the laser technology they have. First of its kind, we see that there is growing potential tailwinds. They're very CapEx loaded at the front. So once technology is developed, they're able to flow that through with lower CapEx, lower cost, and then higher margin appreciation, which is exactly what investors want to hear.
Is that all correct?
That's all correct. I mean, our business model is teaming up with local champions, so we don't need any kind of capital to expand into our key strategic markets. The CapEx will come from our partners. We provide the IP, the technology, and the laser expertise in order to settle down and to multiply our footprint into any kind of growth market.
Now, Grady, EOS is already up. I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. Up more than 500% in terms of the share price in a year. So why is there still upside from here?
There's really strong upside. The company has had this robust turnaround. They're now debt-free, they're cashed up, and they have a lot of structural tailwinds. So I think it's kind of the AI movement we're now seeing play out in defense from many years ago. So what I mean by that is defense is now where investors see the opportunity. We see countries around the world renewing their spend, constantly updating their strategies and really piling a lot of money, GDP promises into this defense spend. Who benefits from that best? EOS and the leaders in the space. And so at this point, we're seeing a pivotal point for EOS. So now they're making money. They've got these contracts coming through. They're multi-year contracts. They're multi-hundreds of million-dollar contracts. That's exactly what investors want to see. That's why there is so much upside potential. So because we've seen this pivotal change from the company now being debt-free, generating really material contracts, we see there's really strong tailwinds there.
Andreas, is this a case of EOS being in the right place at the right time, or does the company have a real technological edge over competitors?
Yes, both. We have the technological edge. It goes back to the times of the 1980s when we have been partner of the US government in the so-called Star Wars program. That is the origin of all of our laser technology. And yes, we have invested all over the time into that technology. We are now the world market leader outside US. For all laser weapon applications, whether it's against drones, but also against satellites from ground, what we call space warfare. And from this leading position, we can capitalize now. To come back to your previous question, we have so far sold weapon systems, remote weapon stations for $500,000 a piece. Now we sell laser weapons, which sells for $50 million per piece. So we can see the kind of leverage in revenue and earning potential in the future. And that's the reason why we believe, yes, the share price has still huge potential. And if you look to the competitive situation, there's not much ongoing. We have just one competitor in the non-US market against whom we have to compete. And we are the only company among the two which is ready to share IP and to transfer IP for local production in any kind of foreign country, as long as the country is not under sanction.
Maybe taking a step back, Andreas, everyone's talking about laser weapons. What makes these high energy laser weapons that EOS makes so different?
With a laser weapon, the kind of we are producing, you can kill 20 to 30 drones per minute. With any other kind of weapon system, you can kill maximum 4 or 5 drones per minute. And as all of our assets will be threatened in the future by large quantities of drones, drones coming in large swarms. It's all about how many you can kill per minute. And that's the reason why the laser weapon will make a big difference.
Okay. Recently, EOS projected a full year 2025 revenue of between 115 and 125 million with potential additional revenue from new orders. How do you manage the conversion of these advanced opportunities into signed contracts?
I mean, the business, you always say, is lumpy. So contracts will come in sometimes later than expected, sometimes ahead of time. So we are experiencing this year, a year where we have some contracts coming in earlier. Some contracts popped up out of nowhere because of emergency by our clients. But some other contracts are coming in slightly later, like the Australian Land 400 product or program, which we expect to sign very soon. But it should have been signed already months ago. And that's the reason why sometimes revenue will swap from 1 year into the next year, from one quarter into the next one. We have to manage that. We have to live with that one. And that is causing sometimes some adjustment in the business. But the key message is the business perspective has not changed at all. We are extremely bullish. We are extremely confident whether the contract will be signed today or tomorrow, whether the revenue will be recognized this day or the next week, this quarter or next quarter. It doesn't change the needle on the midterm.
Now, Grady, I mean, in Bell Potter's most recent report, a chunk of that forecast revenue was pushed back by your estimates into 2026.
Yeah.
So what should investors, I suppose, read into that delay?
Yeah, so what investors need to understand is analysts always, so I looked at the analyst report this morning and I thought it's exactly what plays out. So with contracts, it's really difficult, not just in the defense industry, but all around the world. You're seeing, and every sector, you're seeing contracts signed, and it just depends on the receipt of the money. So that a lot of analysts will forecast the money to come into Q3. Sometimes there is delays, sometimes there's negotiations going on, and that just gets pushed back. It's not a reflection of the business at all. It's not lost business. It's simply the timing of the money coming in. So what that means is that the deferral today is why we have deferred that revenue into Q4 and FY26 instead of FY25. And then that just simply pushes out our profit expectations as well.
Well, Bell Potter also sees losses in 2025 before profitability in 2026. Just talk to us about the confidence that analysts are placing in EOS turning that corner.
Yeah, they definitely have seen the proven track record now. They see that there is a pipeline of at least $299 million in the contract pipeline so far. That's on top of what we're already seeing in the revenue projections out yesterday from Andreas and the team. So what that says is that we see the now delay of that revenue receipt into FY26 is when we see the push out of the loss is expected to come first. And then obviously with the higher contract renewal in the FY26, that's when we see the profits are going to turn.
And you're confident in that profitability in 2026?
We are very proud. We are very confident. Our kind of break-even point is at a revenue base of about 180 million, and we are pretty sure that we will easily beat that next year. We have lots of opportunities which are not reflected in the pipeline, which we have already announced a couple of months ago. The new opportunities mostly are around the laser weapon product line. So many new clients are showing around the corner, expressing interest and wanting to enter into contracts. This is the very soonest. Things which we have not published so far in our current pipeline. There's only one further laser contract contained, and we expect many more to come pretty soon. So the pipeline I would consider is very conservative today.
As Grady pointed out, debt-free and around 100 million in the bank, possibly more. What does that mean for your ability, for the ability of the company to go after these contracts and win over these clients?
We do not need any capital to execute a contract. Any contract we are signing is cash positive from day one. So usually we get a down payment of 20-30% of contract value when we sign the contract. That allows us to enter into those kind of executions without any kind of own capital need. That's the reason why we don't need any further capex to grow. And also our partnership model, if you go into new markets, as I explained before, will help us in doing so without any further capital request.
You make it sound so easy, but big contracts, big technology, new technology, they're not simple. So how do you ensure that your laser or anti-drone, counter-drone technology really does stay ahead of the competition? How much are you still investing in R&D, for example?
We are still investing a significant amount of money into R&D to go to the next level, but we have stopped the habit of the past where the company was more or less financing the entire needs for next generation product development. Today, our clients are paying for that. We are seeking for customer funding, for third-party funding in order to save the their shareholder money for other business growth opportunities. So, for example, the development of the next generation laser weapons, and we're talking about the 300 kilowatt laser weapon range, will be fully funded by a client. We don't invest a single penny for that. And 300 kilowatt, we will be by far the leading company worldwide. There's nobody outside the US being even close to 300 kilowatt.
Now, you mentioned the space program, part of EOS's DNA, I suppose. That obviously gets less airtime than defense. Is the space part of the business, some sort of a hidden gem? What is the play there, and how big do you see that potentially becoming?
Our space business was for many years the hidden champion. We were concentrating very much on the civil application, on following and track objects in space, in doing space debris measurement and giving anti-collision satellite warnings. That is something which we will continue. But now we have reached the turning point into military applications. So in the future, we will engage from ground against satellites by dazzling the sensors, by preventing satellites from taking pictures over the ground, and also by disabling satellites, by destroying satellites from ground. That's a capability which is today much more needed than in the past. And a big game changer came with the announcement of the US government, Donald Trump, with its Golden Dome program. He announced to spend $175 billion to build up this Golden Dome capability. That is exactly what we want to do, but not for the Americans, for the Western European NATO partners. That is something which is in huge demand and where the Europeans have no solution. US is the only company outside US with this kind of capability. And why do we have that? We have that because we have been the partner of the US in the 1980s during the Star Wars type of program phase.
Interesting. I don't even think that really factors into the analyst's view. Okay,
yeah.
But a new defense application. That's interesting. Speaking of Europe, EOS has begun trading on the Frankfurt open market to presumably attract more capital, European investors. What are the strategic objectives other than that behind the move, and how does that help EOS on its growth trajectory?
We got lots of inquiries from European investors, small but also large funds, very large funds, and they all want to trade on a European stock market, whether it's London or Frankfurt that was kept open. We've decided to start now in Frankfurt, predominantly driven by the market need and expectations. The German government is spending so much money in the future in defense that we believe the German market will be for us the most attractive one from a shareholder-based perspective, but also from a revenue-generating perspective. We've also taken the decision over the weekend to start up our own German-based operation by the fact that the German defense minister has announced last week to spend $40 billion in space warfare and space control. That's a new budget announcement which is exceeding any kind of expectation, and we want to be part of this program. And that requires to settle down in Germany. And that's what we are doing. Okay.
Now, Grady, every investment has its risks.
Yeah.
What are the biggest risks that could derail the EOS investment case, I guess, despite, these defense tailwinds?
Yeah, there's changes in technology that come through. So obviously you have to monitor the changes in technology, changes in spend, and drones have just emerged into the space. They're only new in the last few years. They're now at the forefront, but if something else comes out, that could definitely change the way in which the investment thesis is valued. We also look at lumpy revenue. So if there's a chunk of revenue at the start and then not much revenue for a while, but with EOS, the thing is that their pipeline is so strong and consistent, and they're multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts. So that kind of de-risks it a little bit. Then you look at the supply chain and talent shortages. So obviously people play a massive part in any company and any the outlook for any technology and updates. So that's something that you need to factor in as well. And but these are all balanced with how strong the cash position is at EOS, and they're debt free. So if there was higher risk in the company with debt and a low cash flow, not many contracts, then you'd obviously add a risk element to investing in a company like this. But at the moment, they've de-risked themselves. So we do see it's a strong outlook and pipeline.
And Grady, Bell Potter has a buy recommendation on EOS.
Yep.
Just a couple of weeks ago, upgraded its price target by a pretty chunky amount, I've got to say, to $11 per share. So for somebody watching right now, in your view, what is the single most compelling reason to buy the stock today? I guess the basis of that upgrade.
Yeah, it is really a pivotal point for the company. We've seen that they've proven themselves. They've proven they can generate money. They've proven the outlook for profitability. So when you're looking at a company before this pivotal point, you want to look at how close is profitability, how close is free cash flow, how are they trading on a PE basis. EOS is about 21 times now, but we see huge upside potential for this growth stock. And so looking at it right now, the single most compelling reason is that it has had this pivotal point. It has cash coming through. It's debt-free, has a strong balance sheet, has contract pipelines. It's in the right place at the right time. And we look at the themes and the tailwinds. And as we saw literally just a few weeks ago, this drone war is coming up in Europe, and there's constantly updates from NATO and around the world countries saying we're putting money into drones. So while the theme is there, the tailwinds are certainly there.
And Andreas, I suppose what's the one thing you would like investors to remember when they're weighing up EOS as an opportunity?
I have lots of investor talks those days and people saying that, Andreas, I missed to listen to you in the past when the share price was at $1.20, $1.50, and I should have listened to you more and I should have bought shares. Now I'm really desperate because the share price is at $7, $8, $9. What can I do? And I tell them, listen, you don't miss anything because whatever the share price is, whether it's $5, $7, $9 or $10, it doesn't matter. We have so much of opportunity, so much of potential that I believe the share price will be rocket science higher in 12 months from now. So don't care about the first $10 you might have missed. The journey is just starting.